Everybody, welcome to Going Public. I am Harry McCullough. This week, we speak with David Rabelais, the Executive Director of the Terrebonne Port Commission. Dave, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it, man. What's going on? What's the latest?
Well, I'm happy to be here. It's raining, and nothing else to
Every
do.
day, right?
But when you're the port director and everybody's on you about how deep the Houma Navigation Canal is, when it rains, you get a little bit of relief.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
you get
got
an
you.
extra inch of water, okay, on the canal.
Oh, I
You
got
see,
you.
Everybody gets an extra inch of draft, and I don't charge them anything for it, okay? Sometimes
You got to figure out a way to do that.
sometimes 2 inches if it rains enough, But anyway, it's all good. So, as far as updates, we're going to talk about the maintenance dredging. We're going to talk about the deepening and a little bit about wind energy.
Yeah, so look, we always talk about the agency, and that's the Houma Navigational Canal. So we always talk about the deepening and dredging. What's the latest? Where are we at?
So, on the deepening, the Corps, they released the fiscal year 22 work plan, which was supposed to come out way back, but it came out in May 25th, the end of May, and the work plan lays out how much money we have to spend in fiscal year 22, which it came out in May. So you got to figure everything's way behind. It's supposed to come out in October, didn't come out till May, but the Corps continued to do the work, knowing that they were going to get the money. So. The plan included a $9.23 million for fiscal year 22 for us, for agency maintenance, actually for the Corps, but it's for the maintenance. And it also included $350,000 for preliminary engineering design. Congressman Graves managed to slip that into the president's budget, and that's how you get everything started. And so we have a placeholder now. Doesn't seem like a lot of money, because by the time it's all said and done, the whole thing's probably going to cost $250 to $300 million, but we got $350,000 for preliminary engineering design, and and that's the biggest milestone that we've had since we've got it approved in 2020, the water bill. So in April, this past April, prior to May 25th, okay, when we found out we got the 325, we made a request for the fiscal year 23 budget, which they're working on, and we asked for $2.5 million so that they can finish the preliminary engineering design and they could start the actual design. So that has gone through committee in the House, but that's it so far. So that's the long process, and with everything else going on in Washington, it takes the back burner when it should take the front burner, because that's the budget for fiscal year 23. But it just takes a while. So the request was made, and it was made as a community funding project. I got everybody and their brother to send letters supporting it, and Scalise and Graves and Cassidy all supported it. The reason Kennedy's not involved in that, because Kennedy doesn't do earmarks, and that's what this is considered, an earmark, okay? And you have to respect that. That's his wishes, but he supports everything. He just doesn't do these earmarks. But so we had a letter from the Terrebonne Parish President supporting it. We had a letter from the Chamber. We had a letter from SCIA, and we even had a letter from the Ports Association of Louisiana supporting the project. I'll have to thank the president next time I see him. But anyway, so those funds will be used, like I said, to continue the design of the project, and we're going to get it down to 20 feet. So we're going to go from 15 to 20.
There's so many, as we talk about this, but there's so many things you just can't get out there. First of all, you can't. Everything's got to go through the Corps. You can't just go out there and start digging and make it a little deeper. But you're also dependent on what's happening with some of our flood controls. It's also, you have to make sure there's no, right-of-ways, obstructions that are underneath. And then you got to make sure it all goes through one central, being the Corps. So those things always kind of delay and stretch out and probably add expenses.
I'll give you a perfect example. After, I think it was Gustav, might have been a later hurricane, I don't remember, but I think it was 2-3 years ago, so it wasn't Gustav. But we had a hurricane. It was a small hurricane. It came right into Houma, and it was a minimal hurricane. No, it didn't affect anybody really. It didn't affect us that much. However, it silted in the channel pretty bad, okay? So we got with the Corps, and because we are vulnerable, and just for what you said, that when we need to dredge, if the Corps can't do it, we up the creek without a paddle. pardon the pun.
Right, right.
All right. So we went out and we got our own permit to dredge, maintenance dredge, the last 12 miles of the channel. Okay. Because that's where we always have the problems. It costs us like $150,000 to acquire that permit. It just takes a long time to go through the Corps, and you got to have 100 meetings, and they finally agreed to let us have it.
150 to get a permit.
Yes, sir. So not to pay them, but to pay the engineers
Right,
to
get the permit.
to construct the permit, to bring it to them, to get them to approve it. Right. So we did all of that. Okay. It took us a couple years. We got it in place. We had that hurricane. The Corps had every hydraulic dredge in the country tied up because we had a very, very high river water that year. So they had all the dredges in the rivers dredging. We couldn't get it's right after the hurricane, we couldn't get a hydraulic dredge. Okay, well, we got our permit. The Corps said we can't come. So it's all right, we got a permit. Well, our permit also said that we're going to do it with a hydraulic dredge. Okay, we should have said both, hydraulic dredge or bucket dredge, but we said we're going forward. They said, no, you can't. You got to revise your permit. So for 45 days after the hurricane, when the industry's flat on their back, we're spending more money, okay, to revise the permit, the one that cost us $150,000.
Right.
Now it's even costing us more because we got to revise it because it doesn't say hydraulic dredge, okay? So after a month and a half of them just, I don't know what they do, okay, but they didn't approve it for a month and a half. We finally got it, and we went out there, and it's just a joke, okay? We got a bucket dredge, but they want us to dispose of the material at 2 points in the 12-mile length of the channel that we're going to maintain, because that's what the hydraulic dredge does. They take the discharge pipe and they set it in one spot and they dredge half the channel. Then they move it and they put it in another spot and they dredge the other half a channel, because that's where they think the material needs to go. All right. Now, when you got a hurricane, do you think the hurricane knows that it's got to go there? No, it doesn't.
Not following permits.
All right. So, but the permit says it's got to go there. So we got to, for 45 days, the industry can't do anything. The contractor's got the barge and he's ready. He's out there waiting. Right. So that's the kind of stuff you got to deal with. So you have to envision everything. We should have had we should have just put 2 words, bucket dredge, on the side of hydraulic dredge, and we wouldn't have to wait.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, with the money we're talking about, a lot of times you could almost just buy your own dredge and just keep it out there.
You
but
think?
I
know.
know.
A lot of people say that, but it's a lot of moving parts.
No,
yeah,
I know.
I know.
I'm just kind of making fun a little bit, but with the process you got to go through.
They tie your arms and your legs, and they tell you, "All right, go." All right, and you got to figure out how to go. That's what they do. Okay, so because they don't want to get sued, So anyway, I'll get off that.
Yeah, my bad. And let's get you right back.
So look, so the state's budgeted, $40 million, and that comes out of capital outlay. And this year we're going to get $20 million. Next year we're going to get another 20 to lower the pipelines. Okay, so we can be ahead of this whole project. So they're working on phase 1, which is Cocodrilo to Gulf of Mexico, and they're meeting with the pipeline owners, and it could cost anywhere from $2 to $5 million a pipeline, and right now we've got 6 identified that we're going to have to deal with. But no agreements can be made with the pipeline companies until the state funds that capital outlay requests. And so right now we're just waiting on a CEA with the state, so that, and kind of got in line, because there's a lot of people that get, so you got to get a CEA so it spells out everything, and then we can go to work. So.
Right. And these people you're talking about that you make these agreements, everybody knows the game though, right?
Exactly.
Everybody knows what you're waiting on.
You don't have to reinvent
Everybody
the wheel.
knows that it may take time, it may take a little extra time. This is not a thing that's got to be done in 30 days. Right?
That's right.
So, very interesting there. So the HNC, it'll continue to go, and again, just finding the cost and the permits and all of that. That's where you're at right now.
And that's the deepening. So coming up real hard and fast is the maintenance, okay? And remember we talked a while back about the Corps trying to dredge north of Cocodrilo. Right. And there's some areas that, they're starting to silt in a little. And they haven't dredged that since, I think, 2009 or 2010 maybe, I don't remember. But anyway, and right now, so there's dedicated spoil disposal sites that the Corps has, and our job is to keep the right-of-ways intact, okay? So right now, they're bidding out that section, and we're flanging up the right-of-ways. We got to get a letter from each landowner, not each property, and giving us the right of entry, and then we got to sign a letter saying that the Corps
And most of those people don't step in the way,
no,
right?
no,
Yeah.
no. I mean, they want it. They're the
Right,
ones
sure.
that asked for it.
Right.
And we're approving their land, so their land might be all water now, you know, in a bay or whatever, and we're going to come in, and the Corps is going to put a dike around it, and they're going to pump the material in it. So it's improvement on the land. So all of them want it. It's just a matter of just a paper trail. We got to make sure we got it all signed and sealed and delivered, and we're going to have it done within another month or so, and the Corps is going to dredge the channel. So.
Yeah. So we always think of, when you think of the channel, I always think of the northern part, but most of these issues happen in the southern part.
Yeah, but these right-of-ways are for the northern section,
Yeah.
which we haven't dredged in a long time.
Right.
So we got to blow the dust off of those sites and get them approved.
Getting ready to go. All right. We'll take a break. When we come back, more Going Public right here on Bite.
In South Louisiana, storms are a way of life. Every storm poses a different threat, whether from flooding or hurricane-force winds. At All South Consulting Engineers, we help protect our people from these disasters. Before a storm, we work with our leaders to prevent catastrophic damage. After the storm, we help get the resources needed for rebuilding. We have helped our cities, parishes, and school boards recover over $2 billion to rebuild our community. We'll be here for the next one.
A new company with a lot of history. GIS Engineering has rapidly grown its brand around an experienced team of professionals. GIS Engineering is a full-service planning, engineering, procurement, and construction management company specializing in coastal protection and restoration, upstream and downstream industrial, and transportation infrastructure projects. Putting people first, GIS Engineering, a new company with a lot of history.
Led by a 7-member commission, the Terrebonne Port was created to assist our local industry in promoting economic development. We monitor government regulations that affect our local industry and work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to secure maintenance dredging funds. Because the HNC is the main artery for the heartbeat of Terrebonne's economy, Terrebonne Port fights a constant battle for funding to maintain the federally authorized navigable depth. We are now leasing waterfront and non-waterfront property. Terrebonne Port Commission, serving our industry to keep Terrebonne thriving.
Everybody, welcome into Going Public. I am Harry McCullough. We're speaking with the Executive Director of the Terrebonne Port Commission. He is David Ravelli. David, again, thanks so much for being with us. And we were talking about the deepening of the Houma Navigational Canal. So the total cost of the deepening, that money, who's responsible for all that?
All right, so you remember, you heard the word study. So for 20 years, they studied this, and that is the Bible. It's just called the deepening study that got approved by Congress, and that tells you everything, okay? But it's about this thick. So anyway, you got to get the Cliff Notes. So the deepening cost will be shared by the state of Louisiana, Terrebonne Parish, and the port, okay? And the cost share is 80% federal, which is the Corps, and 20% non-federal, which is the parish, state, and port. So the non-federal also is responsible for all costs associated with, and here's this good term, it's called land easements, right-of-ways, relocations, and disposal areas. And what does that stand for?
LERDs.
LERDs, okay? It's not a bad word. But make sure you use it in the right way, you know. So the state of Louisiana has to pay, well, the state of Louisiana has agreed to pay the local share, the non-federal share. So they're going to, they're going to put up the money, and what we have to do is the legwork. We have to, we have to go in there and, like what I'm doing, and just stay on top of it. Anytime we can get local engineers involved that know a lot more about it than people from outside. It makes a big difference. So that's why they pin that on the locals. So they agreed to pay it. The deepening study estimated the total cost at $255 million. Okay. And this amount includes the LERDs.
The LERDs.
Okay, so whoever thought the LERDs would be $78 million, okay? So the feds are going to
Just
pay...
a non-federal share.
That's right.
Yeah.
The feds are going to pay 177, and the local non-federal amount is 78 million. So, like I said, it's paid out of capital outlay, and we are waiting on the bond commission to do a CEA with us so that we can move forward, and hopefully they will approve. The bond commission will hear it in August, I'm hoping, and then we can hit the ground running in September. So we got to oversee this project. We kind of alluded to that earlier. On a financial front at both the state and federal level. Also, we got to manage the design and construction activities for the LERDs. Okay. And our goal, which we said a while back, is to start the deepening when the lock and floodgate is in place and operable. Because one deal we made in the beginning was that we cannot dig it until the lock and floodgate is in place. So, and it's supposed to be operable in 2025. Okay, and any snag in the funding will delay the schedule. Right now, we're still on pace. But anything can happen. We got 3 years of what's going on in Washington. We got to deal with the state. So we just hope we keep everything intact and keep it moving.
So as we transition, and when we're talking about deepening, and particularly the northern end of the Houma Navigation Canal, we always talk about what may be next, right? Wind energy, right? Maybe, if you got
We'll call it green, yeah.
Green, but construction groups that are on like a Gulf Island and those types, Dolphin, all those things are along the Navigational Canal right there. If they build things, they're going to make big things that they're going to have to bring out to. They're going to need it deeper by that time. So
that's correct.
Are we set up for wind energy to be able to support those energies here?
Well, we're working towards it. Okay, one key to it, like you said, is to getting the channel to 20 feet. Okay, hopefully that's on track, and we're going to get that done in 3 to 4 years. I recently went on a trip to Rhode Island, and Rhode Island is the first offshore wind farm in the United States. There's a lot of wind farms. Texas has them on land. There's a lot of them on land, but that's the first one offshore, and everything that is out there was built by Gulf Island. Okay, we talked about this before, the
platforms,
the platforms, and then there's the windmill post that goes up. Okay, and it's 300 to 400 feet high, and on top of it they put that motor that runs that the blade, and that thing weighs 400 tons. So you have a pole going up 400 feet in the Gulf of Mexico with a 400-ton deal at the top of it. Not too stable, but that's the European design, and it's not up to the fabricators. It's up to the owner, whoever leases the
Right.
bottoms. Okay, so we'll get into that here. The U.S. Interior Department has identified an area in federal waters in the Gulf of Mexico for offshore wind farm leases, and they plan to hold a lease sale next spring, just like they do with the oil and gas. They're going to hold a lease sale. Whoever's successful and gets the lease, I believe the way it works is they're going to tell the whoever leases the property, they're going to say, okay, this is what we need you to produce. You leasing the property for this much, you need to produce this much. And then it's up to him to design or build his windmills to produce that amount of electricity. So you want to make sure he does that, not you, and he tells you what to do. Now, I believe that once we get those windmills down here and we start working with them, that motor that goes on the top, maybe move down to the deck if they can shaft it up the pole and 90 the thing. But anyway,
they got to build ships to be able to service those.
Exactly, because we don't have anything that can lift something that heavy, that high.
Yeah.
In the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, I think Suez is building something like that.
So
right
there's
now.
several of the local fabricators have started talking about doing that, but we got to make sure the wind energy comes. I mean, it looks like it's coming. They got these leases they're gonna do, and so but a lot of people are still hesitant to jump out there and spend a lot of money because we still, not sure. So the Biden administration wants 30 gigawatts of offshore wind in the national electric grid by 2030. It's a lot. And this will take 2,100 wind turbines, 6,800 miles of cable installation with specified support vessels. With only 7 turbines now operating in U.S. water. Now they want
in Rhode Island.
they want 2,100. There's only 7 of them, okay, in the water, okay.
In
The domestic
next 8
supply,
years.
domestic supply chain has a long way to go to reach this goal. All right, now, I think the way they're going to make it happen, I think the only way is the federal government's going to have to come in and really subsidize it to make people, to get everybody over the edge, okay? So the capacity to build these large components doesn't exist yet, but will in the future. Companies need to make investments now to be players in this market. The U.S. offshore wind sector is looking to capitalize on the international expertise of developers from European wind farms, okay? Because they're building them all the time. But I just think we're going to build a better mousetrap here. It's just my opinion.
I wonder if they have a Hurricane Ida's over there on the, where they in Sweden and Denmark where they have all these.
Yeah, and what they do, those blades are computer adjusted, and they, I don't know. They build them what they call a typhoon class. Is the word for it. Okay.
So overbuild.
So
yeah.
So listen, I want to hurry up because I got to get some information out here. So they already opened the windmill lease in California. Okay. So they're looking at doing it out there. The proposed sale includes 5 lease areas that encompass more than 373,000 acres, and they plan to produce 4.5 gigawatts of energy. Remember, Biden said he wanted 30. Okay. Now, when they say they're going to produce that, I just don't think they're there yet. I think,
Sure.
this thing might be 10 megawatts. Okay. But that's when it's running efficiently all the time, every month, every day, every minute. It doesn't run like that. So you're going to get something less out of them than what they're designed to get. Okay. Right. So these numbers may come down a little bit, but that's enough. This 4.5 gigawatts is enough to power 1.5 million homes. Okay. So on the East Coast, we talked about the Block Island wind farm, and it was serviced by Louisiana companies. South Louisiana needs to be the supply chain for the offshore wind in America. And this is a big industry that will be coming to our area, we think, we're pretty sure. As a region, we need to position our industry with the right infrastructure to tackle this opportunity. I'm going to continue to monitor it and, bring any news I hear to everybody. 2 proposed Louisiana and Texas offshore wind farms won't be up and running anytime soon, but they figure heavily in the future of energy production. The 2 wind farms are, the 2 wind farms.
Cameron Parish?
Are projected to produce enough energy to power around 3 million homes, according to the Department of Interior. That's in Texas. Louisiana Climate Plan was released in February, and we set a goal of 5 gigawatts of offshore wind power by 2035, which could power millions of homes. All right, so that's where we are. Our region's success will be based on how quickly we can gear up our construction facilities with the specialized equipment necessary and retrain our labor force to handle this type of work. I don't think we're going to have very much of a loss of retraining our people. I think they're going to get out there and do it right away.
Yep.
Okay, I think the biggest part is the lifting these things offshore that needs to be looked at. And if it is what it is, we're just going to have to, somebody's going to have to build a jack-up boat that's 5 times the size of anything that we got out in the Gulf of Mexico right now.
Right.
Yeah. And they're huge. So
yeah, they were talking that the first ones will be Cameron Parish and a little below Houston, 2 fields right there. There'll be a first one, but Fouchon's already got a lot of the stuff there where,
And Cheltenham, they look, he went on that trip with me, and it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Like if they can put a big dent in the electricity, okay, with these windmills, we're going to get a lot of work out of it, fabrication work. So I'm good with that.
Win-win for everybody.
I'm good with that.
And win-win-win.
Win, yeah.
So,
when it comes.
For sure. For sure. Well, Dave Rabley, we certainly appreciate the updates. Some interesting news. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Harry.
All right. We'll be right back with more Going Public after this.